Hey y'all, so I had something to say really quick. This is going to be a little lighthearted. Hopefully you get a message out of it, but I just wanted to come and be a little lighthearted, tell y'all something. So earlier in the week, I was talking to a friend of mine. We were talking about just being grateful and being grateful for the little things that we don't notice. And I saw a post that we don't normally notice anyway. And I saw a post earlier, and I mean earlier a while back, asking how much was your rent at the first place that you stayed at. And y'all, that was funny to me because my rent at the very first place I stayed at by myself was $315. It was in the hood. And I remember not having furniture. My boss, if you are local and you know where I'm at, it was on the south side. And my boss at the place I was working at the time had a little sofa-ish thing that would roll out into a mat. It wasn't a bed. It would roll out into a mat. And so she gave me that. And that's where I would kind of sit up. And then I would sleep. I didn't have any furniture at the time. And there was a huge crack at the bottom of the door. And I tried going to the hardware stores and sealing it. It would just never stay closed. So frogs would come in the bottom of the door. And I remember like being so scared to go to sleep at night because I didn't know if a frog was going to hop on me or what. It was. And so I just got used to eventually sweeping frogs out the house, sweeping them out the pantry. It was like Frog City. And I remember it being so much in the hood that I was dating my ex-husband at the time, and I would not let him drop me off in the parking lot where I stayed. He would have to drive me where I lived. It was set up like kind of a hotel, and you weren't supposed to drive by that way, but I was like, no, you gonna drive me by my door, like drop me off by my door, which I don't know. Well, it probably was because it was later in the night, because during the day, I had to park in the parking lot anyway, but I wanted to be let out by my door because my neighbors were suspect. And so I just remember those times. And my apartment was suspect. If I lived in the hood, he lived in a deep hood. So I would drive over there and I would not get out the car. He would have to come get me. I know who my suspect neighbors are. I don't know who yours are. So that's where I was living at the time. And I remember there was a neighbor I had that would sit outside in the front of the apartment and talk to himself and play bongos. It was just that type of groove. And I remember, this may grow some of y'all out, but this is the reality. And I'm sharing this for a reason. So I remember on top of the frogs, there was like woods. And so every now and then palmetto bugs, which are the big roaches, if y'all don't know what that is because you don't live in Florida, would come in. And I remember there was one time, there was one sheet of paper on the floor and there was a palmetto bug that got in and I couldn't kill it. Well, I could kill it, but here was the thing, y'all. This one sheet of paper that was on the floor, it wouldn't go anywhere but up under that one sheet of paper. And I could hear it like playing. And so I called to my friend and I said, look, it's this bug in my house and I need to come spend the night because I can't do nothing. I'm not staying in here. It's those times though. Not only do they build my story, but they remind me of how faithful God has been over the years. They remind me of how good he has been. Sometimes we forget what he has brought us through and brought us from, and we will complain in our now because it's not what we want, but it's certainly not where we came from. Learning to be grateful, to look back and be grateful. Those are the times that build your story. I wouldn't trade anything for those stories now. For one, it's something to laugh about. But two, again, it just reminds me that God has been faithful and it encourages me that he will be faithful. It was a drug-infested neighborhood back then. Of course, it's not as bad as it probably would be today. But if y'all remember, I posted about this a while back that my manager, I met her some years ago recently. Not met her, but what's the word y'all looking? I saw her again. after years of not seeing her. And she said to me, Do you know? I'm so glad you got from over there. Do you know that every time there was something going on, I would circle the neighborhood to check and see if your car was there? It blew my mind that all of those years ago, God had somebody looking out for me. God had somebody watching me, that God was always on the scene. Here's what you need to know. No matter where you are in life, God is always on the scene. Let hard times build your story and build your testimony. Even young couples, that y'all are going through stuff and it might be, times might be hard. Let that build your story. If you're starting over again and it's frustrating and I can tell y'all some stories. But let that build your story. Let it build your testimony. Sometimes we're always looking at what didn't go right, what's happening, that we forget that God has been faithful and that he will be faithful. Be grateful. Look back and be grateful from where you come from. And remember that God is faithful. I don't have everybody's story. I'm not for everybody. I know some of y'all may be like, you know what? The frogs and, the bugs, that's kind of where I am now, but I've never been at this place before. I've always had. That's not my story, but I can still tell you that God has brought you out of something. And if you would look back and remember what he's brought you from and what he's delivered you to, it would encourage you to believe that even out of this place, he can still bring you. So I wanted to encourage y'all. This is the first time I've been presentable probably all week this week. So I wanted to come say hi, say hey, stay encouraged. I don't know what you're going through, but I know God will bring you through. Bye, y'all.